back to the What I Wish I Knew Sooner podcast. Today we're joined by Will Polston. He is a best-selling author, award-winning business strategist, and an amazing performance coach. Will works with ambitious entrepreneurs and leaders, helping them align their business and life with what he calls their North Star.
Will, thank you so much for joining us today. For people that are meeting you for the first time, how would you describe what you do and your mission?
So what I do is help people transform excuses into results by unlocking their next level of potential, performance and purpose. And you say mission, so I refer to my mission as a North Star, which is essentially a life's mission and life's purpose. And that is to do exactly that, to help people to transform excuses into results and live a life they love.
That's amazing.
And how did you get into that?
So yeah, it's give a bit of backstory. So I grew up with a belief that money equaled happiness, and I went off on a tangent to make as much money as I could as early as I could, and did okay at that. And then had a big realization 12 years ago now, May 2013 it was, that my real driver was nothing to do with money. It was never really about money. It'd always been something much deeper than that was linked to my dad, how my dad hadn't achieved certain things he was capable of, and the impact that had on him and my mum and me and my family and a whole host of other people. And I just vowed I don't want anyone else to go through that suffering that he went through and we went through. So from that moment on, I've just been obsessed with anything to do with human awareness, human potential, human behaviour. And that's kind of led me to where I am now.
That's amazing. I feel like it always comes down to actually like your childhood experiences and what you go through that shapes you and your mindset and what your actual purpose in life is, for sure. You've been really open about the fact that in your early 20s, you achieved financial success, but felt completely unfulfilled. Can you take us back to that time and what was really going on for you in your early 20s?
For me, there was this link now that I can look back and I can see with money enabled opportunities. Money meant things could be done and gave choice. What I can look back now, I don't think it was a thing then, but now I kind of look back and I can see that it was. I think there was an element of significance as well, of wanting to be significant and kind of being able to have certain things and get the status, I suppose you could say. So yeah, that was a factor. And what had happened is there was a lot of stuff that was involved. So I'd set goals, and I know you girls are big into manifestation and law of attraction, and I would do this stuff. I mean, I first read The Secret. I want to say it was probably 2008, I think, and I remember thinking, I've been doing this. So for lots of people, they read The Secret, the law of attraction, and they go, oh my God, this is so profound. How could I? Yeah. And I went, I've been doing this for years without even knowing it was a thing. Yeah. And not knowing that I was doing it consciously. When I realized, right, let's apply it, whether it was the cars, the houses, the watches, the clothes, girls, whatever it might have been, that I felt that I could manifest. I don't think I used the term manifest back then. I think the word manifest in itself has become a lot more trendy in recent years, right? And that was it. Yeah, I just remember thinking, is this it? You know, it's just chasing the next thing and the next thing. It's like the hedonic treadmill where you're just chasing the next thing. And I went to an event with a guy who's massive in personal development. He was over here in the UK, a guy called Tony Robbins. And I went to one of his events, and it was on the second day where I had my lightning moment, and bam, it just hit me. Cried my eyes out for about 15 minutes, because in that moment I realised that it wasn't about money. It had never been about money. It was to do with dad and certain things he didn't do. And that then sent me off on that trajectory.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a really powerful moment. What was it about the Tony Robbins talk that really shifted your mindset?
So, great question. We have beliefs. And our beliefs can get formed consciously or unconsciously. And for me, I had created this unconscious belief that was linked to my uncle. So I've got two very wealthy uncles, and Dad always used to say they just got lucky, right? So that was always the excuse. They got lucky. And bearing in mind that I'd had this respect for Tony Robbins for a long time, and I was watching him at this event, and he shared his life story that enabled him to create something called Basket Brigade, which was linked to do with a situation that happened to him when he was a young boy on Thanksgiving, when a stranger came to the door to give them food because they didn't have enough money for Thanksgiving dinner, which is like our equivalent of Christmas dinner. Yeah. And the dad said, we don't we don't take charity or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing slightly. And then the dad ended up sort of leaving. And that for me was like the perfect metaphor between him saying like, we don't take charity, to my dad saying they just got lucky. And it was this one belief that you have that can stop so much happening in your life. And to this day, I still don't believe in luck. I don't believe that luck exists. I believe that you create luck. Because if you spend your whole life believing that things only happen because of luck, I think it's quite well, life happens to me. I'm the victim, as opposed to I'm actually going out and making something happen.
That's so funny, because that's actually the video that we posted on Instagram today. We say that you don't create your own luck. You have to go out there and search for opportunities yourself and take action. And that's when manifestation works best.
Yeah, because you have like a dream and you see it, you visualize it and you know what you want, but you have to be the one to actually go out and build that life for you. And then people perceive you as lucky, but like, you built that for yourself.
So even like a tiny little example. So today we're filming this. It's Monday. Yesterday was Sunday, obviously, as it is every week, the day before a Monday. And my partner's just been away for the weekend, and we've had a room decorated, and we had some new light switches that have been fitted. I can't change a light bulb, so there's no way I'm touching electrics and changing light switches, light sockets. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be lovely if I got a handyman to come around, so when she came back, they were all done. And then I thought, no, I'm on my way out. I'm busy. I was going somewhere. I had to be somewhere. I was running a bit late. And this is 8:45 yesterday morning. And I am thinking, I'll post on Facebook in a Facebook group later and someone will come around. As I'm driving out, my next door neighbour but one has got someone working on his drive. I drive past. It looks like he's playing with the electrics. I wind down the window and say, excuse me, are you an electrician? He said, yeah. So what time are you going to be here till? He said, about 12. I said, I've got a job that I could really help with you doing if you're open to doing it afterwards. He said, yeah, no problem.
Amazing.
Right. Now, would he have just come knocking on my door and saying, I don't suppose you've got any sockets that need changing? No, but of all the times that I've ever driven down that road, which is hundreds and hundreds, has there ever been an electrician working on my neighbour's drive? No. So that for me, even those micro actions winding down the window, I still had to do my part in playing to get the result. But these things can happen.
That's such a simple but perfect example. Yeah. Of that. So when you talk about your 20s and what you were trying to achieve, it sounds like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of what you were trying to achieve was almost to prove something?
I think so. I mean, at the deep level, yes. I think for me, there was definitely an element of choice, and I wanted things. Yeah, I guess there's an element of that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then you had a mindset shift that made you realize what you actually want yourself out of life.
Yeah, and so this is not my sort of IP, it's Tony Robbins. There's 6 human needs. The need for certainty, a need for variety, a need for love and connection, which is kind of the same thing, a need for significance, and they're what he calls the core needs. And then there's the 2 spiritual needs. So the 4 human needs and the 2 spiritual needs, which are growth and contribution. And what I've experienced in all of the work that I've done, I've worked with some elite level people, whether that's in sport, whether that's celebrities, whether that's in business, and everything in between. You get to a certain level and then it no longer becomes about you, it becomes about others. And how can you have an impact on others? And that's where I think people really get the fulfillment, when they realize it's no longer about them anymore. It's about what I call the ripple effect, because I truly believe when you achieve your full potential, not only does it benefit you, it benefits your family, your friends, your community, society, humanity, the universe. That's the whole ripple effect that takes place.
That's a really interesting way of looking at
making
it.
an impact that is bigger than yourself. So now you talk a lot about finding your North Star. For anyone hearing that term for the first time, could you explain what exactly it means?
For sure. So for me, the way I like to identify what a North Star is using a metaphor, which is it's the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon. So people think about that and they go, but Will, you can't empty the sea with a spoon. That's ridiculous. And that's the whole point. What's this thing that you're willing to do for the rest of your life, accepting that you're never going to get there, wherever there is? And kind of come about for me was years ago. I'm not religious personally. I'm quite spiritual, but I'm not religious. And I thought about this story that I'd heard over and over and over again. And it was involving a baby born in a stable a couple of thousand years ago in December. And there were 3 men, supposedly wise, all carrying presents. and they followed the North Star. Well, they followed a star. It technically wasn't the North Star. They followed a star. But in every version of the story that I ever heard, they never actually went to the star. They just used it as their guiding light.
Yeah.
Yet they still were able to achieve their goal of what they wanted to achieve. And that for me was like, so the North Star isn't something that you get to. It's something that guides you. And that for me was really quite profound, because I'd spent my life up until that point living with what I call when-then syndrome. When I achieve this, then I'll be okay. When I get that, then I'll be all right. When this happens, then everything's going to be perfect. And that's not the case. In every version that I've ever experienced of that, and with countless people, that gets to a point, wherever that thing is, if that's what you believe is going to be the thing that makes everything okay, it isn't. Yeah.
And it means you'll never be fulfilled if you're constantly looking for the next thing.
Yeah, exactly that.
So how do you get people towards their North Star?
Great question. So there's 5 ways that I've come across. The first way is that people already know it. They already know this mission in life, this inner drive, this thing that they want to do. So they already know it. The second way, the other thing I'll add, is that nobody ever finds their North Star. So a lot of people talk about finding their purpose and, well, how do I find my North Star? You don't find it, you create it. Another way of doing it is by using a concept that's born out of Japan called an ikigai. So creating an ikigai. We don't have a one-word translation for ikigai, but it means a reason for being. The way that what an ikigai is made up of is essentially the answer to 4 questions and a blend of them in the middle. So if you can imagine a Venn diagram, you've got 4 circles that overlap in the middle. One of the questions is, what are you good at? Another question is, what do you love? The third question is, what does the world need? So basically, what's a problem that you can solve? And the fourth is, how can you be paid? Or that you can be paid to do. So they're the 4 questions, and the blend of that in the middle is the ikigai. What I find particularly interesting about this concept is where it originates from, this tiny little island called Okinawa, just outside of Japan. They have more people that have lived to over 100 years old than anywhere else in the world. Yeah. So it just goes to show that actually by having this thing, you can actually live longer as well as feel more fulfilled whilst doing it. And I believe it's the fulfillment that leads to the living longer. Another way of doing it is doing an exercise. So you imagine an X and Y axis, and you touched on earlier saying about how so many people are driven from things that happen in their childhood. So basically we go back to yesteryear, and we've got sort of high and low experiences. So I kind of go from -10 to 0 to +10 on one of the axes. And then on the bottom axis, we have from your earliest memory until now. And we basically plot your highest highs and your lowest lows. And you'll be amazed at the correlation. And almost always it's the lowest lows where there's an insight to the North Star. Another one is by identifying your top means values. So most people have heard of values before. They normally talk about core values for lots of people. They are things they see in offices, they're normally up on the wall. They are typically values that are social idealisms. So words like honesty and trust and transparency. Means values are the things you do that give your life meaning. And the best way of finding your means values is by answering 13 questions that are part of something called the DeMartini determination process, which you can go online and get the 13 questions. They're free. But I've broken it down into just 4 questions to get a rough idea, which is, what do you fill your space with? What do you spend your time doing? What energizes you? And what do you spend your money on? And an indication to those things can give you an indication to someone's top value. So my top means values, the things that I do that energize me and I spend my time on and I spend my money on. And if you looked in my space, it'd give you lots of clues to it, is self-mastery, building businesses, creating relationships and building wealth. They're mine. So the last one is answering the question, if you had all of the money that you would ever need and you never had to work ever again, what would you want to do day to day?
Still help people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But doing what specifically?
If you want to help people, that's helping humanity, and it's down to your passions and what you love doing. So that could be in any way, like performance coaching, like what you do, and I don't know.
You're right. I used to run a workshop that I ran dozens of times before COVID hit, and it was called Unlock Your Potential. And there was a particular 7-question exercise that I went through, and the last question was always about asking people that essentially always came back to people saying that they wanted to have an impact on other people.
Yeah.
Even if you talk about people that have got a real interest in planet and they want to save the oceans, and you say, we go, but why? And they go, because I want other people to experience it. It still comes back to the people.
Yeah.
And I think that's always really quite interesting.
It's always about people. You know, when you said, oh, but how? I think I do it through helping other people feel confident. Like, I love photography, so I use that tool to help people feel good through my words and being able to talk to them and like raise them up. Like, I went down the street the other day and I just was like, I'm going to go up to this lady and tell her she's beautiful. And it was the weirdest thing because I did it twice last week. And then this never happens, but I was at the train station at the weekend and this lady just walks up to me and taps me and goes, I just wanted to say you're beautiful. And I was like, what the fuck? That's really weird because I just did that.
So the universe,
like, did the universe just do that to tell me to keep doing it? Because I like believing in serendipitous moments like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be amazed at how far a compliment can go. I vividly remember I was 16 at the time. I might have been 17. I vividly remember getting this compliment from a woman working in Baskin Robbins ice cream parlour in Chelmsford in Essex nearly 20 years ago. I can't even remember what she said, but I remember how it made me feel. And I still remember that 20 years later. So, yeah, you never know what difference it can make by being, as long as it's a genuine compliment, you know, you're going out giving all these compliments just to think, oh, well, I'm going to make someone feel good, but I don't really mean it. But yeah, if it's a genuine compliment.
Because like I easily say it to my friends and my family, but you know how like some people can just like say it because they really mean it. And or like, whoa, it does make a difference.
It makes a big impact on someone's day. Yeah. So do you use a combination of all of those tools with your clients on a one-to-one basis?
Yeah, absolutely. My interest, I've got such a obsession, I suppose you could say, with self-mastery. So that I'll go back and learn about ancient wisdom, whether that's Hermetic wisdom or Atlantean mysteries and some really kind of out there stuff right through, because I'm right in saying that your previous, I don't know if it's the most recent episode, one of your more recent episodes was a family friend of one of yours that does tarot cards and stuff. So whether it's learning about those, like, I didn't know that all playing cards, you know, when you go and play Snap or you're playing Rummy or whatever you're using, they originated from tarot cards like years ago. Like, it's fascinating. So I'll go back and I'll learn that kind of stuff right through to more new age wisdom. And then obviously the next version of that now in today's day and age is AI, which is not really self-mastery, but you can be using it in ways that we can gain insights about ourselves that we've never been able to do previously, which is fascinating, and everything in between. So yeah.
And what kind of people are you helping and where are they on their journeys?
So the majority of my clients are business owners that are already quite established. But that's a spectrum, right? So everything in life's on a spectrum. So I've had the coaching business 9 years. And as I've grown, that's developed. I mean, even now I'll have someone reach out to me going, I'm thinking of starting a business. What do I do? Where do I go? What can I do to grow? And right through to, I mean, my biggest client I worked with had sold his business for a few £100 million. So there's that extreme. And then there's sports people I've worked with, Harry Maulding, who just won Britain's Got Talent.
Oh wow!
So there's just a whole range of people.
Amazing. And do you have an example of, I mean, you don't have to name names, but someone you've worked with who had a complete transformation after finding their North Star?
Yeah. So who I talk about in the book, actually, Billy, he's a good example. So Billy Long, his name is, he would, by his own admission, say he was a bit of a nuisance growing up, getting in fights and got involved with gangs and various different things. And at about 18, he realised he was quite good at boxing. So he got really into boxing, had 3 kids really quite young. I think even before the time he was 21, I think he had 3 kids. And yeah, so he kind of got into boxing and he became a very good boxer very quickly. But boxing is tough, right? Not physically tough, mentally tough, tough on the family, tough on so many different things. And we did some work together because he was just at that point where, for those that don't know much about boxing, is that you go through these camps of like 12 weeks before a fight where you're really pushing hard to your body and mentally, physically. And then obviously to get in a ring and be punched in the head loads of times, you know, it's not the best lifestyle. And he was like, I really want to do something. But then what we realized when we tapped into his North Star, what it was really about for him was being able to have an impact on young people to not go down the route that he went down and teach them how to have character, how to have discipline, how to be gentleman, basically. So then he created Box to Burn, which now he literally has kids queuing up outside his gym after school to go and be trained by him. He set up Long's amateur boxing club. One of his sons is in the Tottenham Academy. Two of his sons are some of the best boxers in England now. And not only has he done it for his own kids, he's doing it for so many kids in the community. So the focus went from him just wanting to just be this boxer to now making a difference. People travel hundreds of miles just to have their kids trained by him now. He's doing amazing stuff.
It's so nice that it always goes back to that helping people.
Yeah.
One way or another.
And it's like people buy from the people they love as well. So that's super important. Everyone must love him. So you've spent years studying behavioral change, performance psychology, NLP, even ancient wisdom. Out of all of those disciplines, what's the most underrated tool for transformation?
Oh, what a great question. I'm going to say two. So I can't pick one because it's between the two. Yeah. One is essentially what I would call your North Star, but what I call your North Star actually is a whole ology, which is called teleology. So anything ology means study of. So teleology is the study of the telos. The Stoics spoke about the telos, and it's just the whole concept of having this big thing that is super meaningful to you. But what really creates that is born on your values, which is axiology. So the study of values is axiology, and it's one of the least studied ologies. You think of all the biology, chemistry, like all of the different ologies, psychology, sociology, but it is the most important, really, because every single one of us have a set of values that are as unique as the fingerprint on the end of our finger. And it's the hierarchy of those values which determine whether you're living congruently or not. So when I'm working with people, I will be getting an understanding of what their values are from things they're saying to me, and that's one of the things. But I can also get an understanding of whether they're living congruently with their values or not from the language they're using. So if people are using language like I need to, I ought to, I should, it's an indication they're living someone else's values. When they're using language like I love to, I choose to, I desire to, it's an indication they're living their own values. What's the difference? Well, when you're living someone else's values, you need constant motivation, external motivation. When you're living your own values, you don't need external motivation because you're internally driven. Then you don't need motivation because you've got inspiration. If we take the word inspiration in spirit, what's another word for spirit? Energy. You're in your energy. So people don't burn out because they're working too hard, which is what a lot of people think. They burn out because they're not spending enough time doing the stuff that they love doing. And then I think of it like a big torus field of energy. The more you do it, the more energy you create, the more it expands. And the more congruently you live.
Well, I love seeing it like that.
Yeah. Do you think that means then people that have their own business versus people that work for other people's companies are living more in their own values?
Not necessarily. Again, great questions, ladies. Just because someone works for a business, it doesn't mean that they are necessarily living that they're not living congruently. One of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why people will want to run their own business is because of the financial opportunity, right? That's one of the reasons. Another reason that people want to do it is because they want to have more creative, they want to express themselves more creatively than being in a corporate job where they just do one thing. Then other reasons that people will want to work for somebody is because they just want to be able to do more of a particular task outside of work, and they want to be able to box it off. So in answer to your question, no, it absolutely doesn't. So my assistant, for example, she's got no interest in starting her own business. She doesn't want to do that. What she wants to be able to do is really support someone and do an amazing job at supporting someone, which she does an amazing job. And that's fine for her. It's funny because a lot of people think that the majority of people go into business because they want to make loads of money, which I can get as a reason why certainly some people go into it. But the irony is for most people that start and own their own business is that they make less money than people that work in their job. When you work at an hourly rate, certainly for the first few years, for a lot of businesses, not all businesses, most business owners are literally making less than minimum wage.
Until it takes off after a few years.
Yeah.
You mentioned the whole energy thing earlier, and I really think that it is all down to what you love. And every time I do something that I love, I get more energy from it. And I'm like, whoa, because I'm doing what I love. But when I do something that's really mundane and boring, that I don't like, it's like my energy just gets drained and I'm not even like doing anything. I'm just sitting there.
Exactly that. So and this is what I mean about people. There'll be times, you know, for some people, just even the thought of work on a Monday is draining the life out of them. For me, that's just not a life. I don't want to be in a position where I'm avoiding what I'm doing. And for some, that doesn't mean you'll go and start your own business. Just go and find something that's more aligned with what you want to do, that's aligned with your values, and be aligned with your values and meet your needs. And that's key, because a lot of people, whilst it might be aligned with their values, it doesn't meet their needs. So we want to look at being able to meet needs where possible, well, not where possible, as kind of a minimum benchmark, and then be able to build up from there.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I also feel like if you're not doing something that gives you energy, that's when you end up feeling burnt out as well.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. You just feel like so tired and exhausted.
Yeah.
Recently, me and Sen have like been doing more of what we love. And I just feel like it just makes such a difference in your mindset as well. It becomes so much stronger and confident in yourself.
Well, it goes deeper than that, because when you're living your values and you're pursuing something you really care about, you will overcome more challenges as well, right? So optimal growth is at the border of support and challenge. So when you want to really, really grow, you're going to get enough pushback, but it's enough to make you grow. Whereas there's other times when things feel so easy, it's like, oh, I can't be bothered, and you're kind of bored with it. But then the other extreme is that it's so hard, you feel like you're in a breakdown. We want you to get in that optimal growth. And when you're living congruently, you're living your North Star, when you're living your values, you will push through those boundaries in other ways. People go, I can't believe how you would do that, because you've just got the energy and the drive and the internal focus to want to be able to do it, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. So why do you think so many ambitious people still feel unfulfilled even when they've made it on paper?
They haven't got clear in their North Star. It's lack of clarity. That's really what it boils down to, is lack of clarity. I've done about 7,000 hours of one-on-one coaching, run probably over 600 different events, worked with hundreds of people, thousands of people from all over the world. And in almost all instances where people find themselves in that situation is because they lack clarity. And what I've kind of whittled my whole coaching framework down to was absolute clarity, intelligent action, and active accountability. You know, it's not just taking action for action's sake, but once we've got clarity of where you are now, clarity of where you want to get to, we can reverse engineer that process. We can reverse engineer that situation. You know, I know that the podcast for you ladies has been an opportunity for you to showcase making that transition, rather than just hearing about the people that have already made it and how amazing they are, which is in itself is inspiring from time to time, but going through that journey as well. And for me, what actually happened, so what I didn't touch on, was I had the big life lightning moment in May 2013. I remember at the time I was working in London. I remember going home that night, registering a company online. The next day, going to the bank at Fenchurch Street and opening a bank account in the NatWest there. And I was all excited. And I just said, yeah, right, that's done. I'll start when I'm successful. So I gave myself when then. I kicked it down the road. Something had to happen in order for me to start. Anyway, I did leave the city. I set up a renewable energy business. We were growing that really, really quickly. Me and a business partner, and we had 85 staff, growing. But then government changed legislation. It killed that business overnight. So I booked a holiday to go to Cancun in Mexico with my girlfriend at the time. And back then I was a big drinker. I haven't drunk now for over 7 years, but back then I was a big drinker. So we booked this hotel with all-inclusive drinks and premium spirits and all this stuff. And literally less than a week before we went on holiday, I went to the hygienist and she clipped my gum, and my gum got infected. And she gave me these antibiotics, and she said, well, whatever you do, you cannot drink alcohol on these antibiotics, right? And I was like, you're kidding. We're going to the land of tequila. How can I not drink? Anyway, so my girlfriend at the time and I, we went to the thing, and one night out we went to this place in Cancun called Coca Bongos, which is this. You've been. Have you been? It's this mad. We've got midgets swinging from the ceiling, and it's crazy party. Crazy party. And she was throwing back tequila like it was going like it's water. And that night I carry her home at like 5 a.m. or whatever it is, wake up the next morning. She's got her head down the toilet throwing up. She's like, Will, I can't go out in the sun today. Well, I'm going out. My holiday's already been ruined because I can't drink. So I went out with a book called Hero by Rhonda Byrne, who's the same author that wrote the book The Secret. And I was reading this book on my own because my girlfriend at the time was in the hotel room. And there was a passage in it. And it was by a guy called Mastin Kipp, and he was talking about how he used to just post a motivational quote on Twitter every day, and one day he got retweeted by Kim Kardashian and he went from 1,000 followers to 10,000 followers overnight. And I just started crying. I was like, Will, you idiot, you don't need to be successful to start. Just start by posting a quote on social media. So that's what I did. I came home, I posted a quote on social media every day, on Facebook and Instagram, I think it was, for the first week. And then I was like, Will, you idiot. Some people don't go on social media in the morning. You should post one in the afternoon as well. So I did that. And then a week after that, I set up my first website. A week after that, I wrote my first blog. 3 months after that, I had a 10,000 strong social media following. But the key was I started. And that's why I've got such admiration for you ladies, because you started. And for the listeners that are listening to this, and I want to say this because absolute kudos to you both. You either popped up on my Instagram, or you followed me, or I followed you, whatever it was. Anyway, whatever happened, I was able to see what I wish I knew sooner. And it said the podcast. And I went, oh my God, this is amazing. Because, and I've just shown you this literally before we come to the show, in June 2024. So at the time of recording this, just over a year ago, I made an action at an event I was at to set up a series that I was going to do on my YouTube channel, on my podcast, called What I Wish I Knew. But the key, the difference, you acted on it. I didn't. Yeah. So I don't know how many episodes you're in now, but you actually did it. And that's the key, is that lots of people have ideas, but you don't get paid for ideas. You get paid for execution. And like, I appreciate it's early in your journey and you may not be getting paid for this, right? In fact, if anything, you're probably putting money in, right? Still at this stage. But the fact was you acted. And for me, it was that one quote a day it was like pulling the thread on the jumper that made the whole thing unravel to get us to where this point that we're at now. And even having this conversation ultimately started because that one quote I posted on social media. So whatever it is, no matter how small that action is, you can work all the way back to get yourself in that position.
I feel like that comes back to the whole consistency thing as well, like being consistent and putting in the action. I've been posting on social media every single day on TikTok because I know that you have to show up every single day, and you just have to think about the future. Although it's starting off small now, in like a few months, because you're showing up and you're putting in the action, it might not get to 10K, but it might explode. And I think that's super important, like consistency.
Yeah. It's so inspiring as well, because I feel like the common thread between all of our conversations on the podcast has always been start before you're ready.
Yeah.
And it's just really nice that it keeps getting emphasized and encourages people to do that, because I think a lot of people, like you say, do wait until they're 100% there, and they always put things off until that right moment, but then they never get it done.
Exactly. And that was really nice, that compliment about starting it. We just came together and we were just like, let's do this. And I think what's really good about us working together is that we push each other and get it done together, which is really nice.
Yeah.
You're obviously really good at spotting misalignment in people really quickly. What are some of the red flags that you'd look for when you're working with them?
The thing that ultimately I want people to do is to be living a life that they love, right? And living a life that they love doesn't mean everything's always sunshine and rainbows, and doesn't mean that everything goes exactly the way they want it to be, but they're striving towards that. So one of the things for me is when people are experiencing chronic unhappiness, chronic feelings of depression, chronic anxiety, which, let's face it, at the moment is kind of like an epidemic in itself, right? Is realizing that. And I think it's getting people to have an awareness that they have choice is one of those things. For me, I've done my absolute best for as long as I can remember to not use the word can't, as in I can't do this, I can't do that. So for me, when people are constantly saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, that for me is an indication that, oh, that's interesting. Let's challenge that and see if that's really the case, or if that's just what you believe is the case. Because for most people, these things are a belief. And if you take the word belief and you look at the 3 letters in the middle, the word is lie. So for lots of people, it's a lie that they're telling themselves over and over and over again. So we can change that and create a new awareness. So yeah, there'd be a couple.
That's interesting as well, because I think the way you speak to yourself and about yourself is so important, because it's almost saying like an affirmation. And if you're using negative words, it really probably is limiting yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So alongside coaching, you've built and invested in multiple businesses, from medicinal mushrooms, supplements, to private equity. What do you feel is the common thread that connects them all?
Without a doubt, I get asked this a lot, because people say, well, how do you go from having a coaching business to having a mushroom business to then having something that's involved with construction to AI? And the common theme that runs between all of it is it helps people transform excuses into results and live the life they love. So the mushroom business, when I first heard about lion's mane mushroom and what the lion's mane mushroom, what it does, so how it helps you have better focus, better memory, improve your mood, I was like, this is amazing. Now, it also aligned with my personal North Star. So in my North Star trajectory, I'd had a goal of wanting to sell a business for a particular sum of money, because I believe that the fastest way to create substantial wealth is through exiting a business, or certainly exiting an asset, income producing asset. So that could be property and other things. But yeah, that for me was the case. So I'd kind of set this goal of I want to have sold a business. It started broad, and then I decided I wanted it to be a product-based business, so I could leverage my existing audience. I've got a little bit of an audience and different socials and whatnot. And I thought, well, let's look at a way I can leverage that. So I thought of a product business, and then over time I thought, it could be a supplement. That could be really good. And then when I heard about lion's mane, I was like, it needs to be something to do with medicinal mushrooms, functional mushrooms.
How do you decide where to invest your time and money?
It comes back to, does it fold in with the North Star? Because for me, there's 2 components. That there's the North Star, which is the mission, but then for me, there's the North Star trajectory. So I still have goals. I've got goals right up until I plan on living until I'm 150 years old. I'm sort of pretty out there. So I've got goals right up to that point, but then goals for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 90 day, 30 day, broken down in all 7 areas of life, so that I can say, well, if this is what I want, I can walk it all the way back. And am I taking the congruent decisions that are going to get me closer to that? So last night, it's Sunday evening, my fiance's been away with some friends for the weekend. It's Sunday night. I've ordered healthy-ish food. I got a Turkish in, and then I was like, I'm really craving chocolate. I really want to get chocolate, but I haven't got any chocolate in the house. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some chocolate. And then I thought to myself, no, Will, I've got a weight goal and a body health goal, and I'm working towards that at the moment. I said, the congruent decision is to not go out and get the chocolate. What could I do instead? What's a healthy swap I can make? And one of the best Christmas presents I got bought last year, if anyone that's watching or listening to this is into ice cream, I love ice cream, is a Ninja Creamy, because these things are a game changer. You can literally pour in a protein shake and make protein ice cream.
Oh my God,
so it feels really healthy.
Yeah.
Or there's like guilt-free ice cream, basically. And I was like, no, I've got the creamy, I can have that instead. So it comes back to those split-second decisions in those moments, because success, however you define success, it's 80% mindset, 20% skills and mechanics, but it's a lot of small decisions. It's a lot of the small things done well. And that's ultimately what it can lead to.
But do you have any advice for how people can keep their North Star and their priorities top of mind? Is this something that you do?
Yeah, really practically. I have it written out, and in the book, so I don't want to keep plugging the book. So if people want to get the book. However, if anyone is watching this or listening to this, and they would just message me on Instagram with North Star questions, I can literally send them 85 questions that will help them identify what their North Star is. And it shows you the whole process. It's completely free. It's a PDF. I'll send everyone. There's links to it and stuff. But the process is we put it all onto a document. I like to use a Google document because it's easy, it's simple, and then you can highlight it, and then you read it, or certainly read certain components of it every week. So either every Sunday or every Monday, and then you track your progress towards it. So literally this morning I was sat down, I've got my August goals, I've got there also my Q3 goals, my 2025 goals, and so on and so forth. I didn't read all of them today. I just read my top North Star. I read the August goals, and then what I did was I color coded my progress. We're only 4 days into August, but I still color coded my progress on what I've done so far. So then that then helped me identify, right, well, what do I need to prioritize doing today or this week to know that the actions that are going to get me closer to making sure when I get to the end of August, all of those things are green. I say green, done, because I colour them green when they're done. So I traffic light it, green if it's done, amber if it's in progress, red if it's not started. So it's a really visual, I'm really quite visual. So it's a really visual way of me being able to see what do I need to take action on. And that's one of the ways that you do it. So therefore, what happens, so many people, some people never set goals whatsoever. Some people have goals, they kind of keep them in their head. Some people write them down. They might do it once a year at Christmas or New Year's Eve or whatever, New Year's Day, and then they don't look at them again. When you look at your goals every week for 52 weeks a year, that's 52 opportunities to optimize, 52 times to make a tweak and do something that's a bit different. And it's the most effective way that I've come across to actually ensure that results get achieved, whatever they may be.
Has building businesses taught you anything that you now bring into your coaching work?
Yes, lots about failure mainly. I think that my personal belief is that personal development for personal development's sake is just an expensive hobby. Applied personal development, so just reading books and going on the courses and never actually doing anything with it, is just a very expensive hobby. Applying it to an interest, whether it's creating a podcast, whether it's creating a business, something that provides value and creates fair exchange, is hugely beneficial. And there's so many lessons, the real practical things around failure. Hardly any of us ever get taught how to use money. And you can make money, but just because you make money doesn't mean you have money. So I've lost everything twice. And I think what most people don't do, even when they start making money in their business or working for a job, is they never pay themselves first. And what I mean by that is their future self. So what most people do is they get their wages, they buy the thing that they've had in their basket, they've been waiting on all month, on ASOS or whatever it is that they've been desperately wanting. And then they pay their rent, their mortgage, they have a few nights out, they do what they do. And then if there's some money left at the end, then that might go into savings. Whereas paying yourself first, and what I mean by yourself is, if you don't put money in your savings, then every other bit of money is paying someone else, paying the mortgage, paying the electricity, paying the whatever it is. Whereas if you put money in your savings, you're paying yourself first, your future self, and then being wise with that. And the mistake that I made for years was when I didn't save for a long, long time. Then when I did save, I saved for a rainy day, or I saved for something. So I'd save for a holiday, I'd save for a car, I'd save for whatever. But whilst you might still want to do that, there's having savings that you never touch, and those savings just get invested and compound over time. And it's amazing what you can create when you build in that discipline. So you were saying earlier about sort of being consistent, and you can be consistent on social media, any area of life. If something's going the way you want it to go, it's because of something you're consistently doing well. If things are not going the way you want them to go, then it's because of something you're consistently doing bad or wrong or not congruently. And a lot of the time, believe it or not, that consistent thing that you're doing isn't actually always the action. A lot of the time it's the thinking. So it's contaminated thinking. What's the thinking that you're having that's led to the bad decisions? And you can apply that to anything. You can even apply that to partners, the friend that's constantly with the bad guy or whatever, it's what were they thinking at that time that led them to think that was going to be the person that they're going to, so you can always take it back, and we break it down at that point, and it's amazing what can change.
How you're talking about investing in your future self. I think a great way, if people are listening to this, is using like trading 212 and just letting it compound all the time, like your money that you put in, even if it's just like £25. Although it might be seen as a risk, it is compounding up, and then you'll be left with so much. later on?
I suppose it depends on what people put their money into. But yeah, when I was in my early 20s, I lost every penny and more, which at the time was over a substantial amount of money. For me personally now, I choose to invest into low-cost index funds like the S&P 500 because it's a top 500 companies. You're not being charged a percentage of advice. People trying to stock pick. As Warren Buffett famously said, it's more important to focus on time in the market rather than timing the market, like trying to pick your highs and lows and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same. S&P 500 and just letting it grow.
Yeah.
You're so right, though, that we're not taught enough about money and how to manage it. And there's so much competing information. And I think often if we were just given simplified tips like the one that you just made about putting some money at the start of each month into a savings account and prioritising your future.
Yeah.
Two things I'm going to say on this, and then I'm going to give a book suggestion for everyone. And it could be powerful. So number one is whatever you start saving, no matter how small a percentage that is, you better start with a percentage rather than a fixed amount of money. Put it in the day you get paid, set it up as an automated payment, like equivalent of standing order direct debit into the account that it's going into. That's the first thing. Then look to increase that by 10% every 3 months. So, for example, to keep numbers simple for my brain, is that if you were putting away £100 a month, then in month 4, you'd put away £110, for example, right? So that's the idea. And then it'd be 110, 110, 110. And then what does it work out to be then? 122. No matter how small you start at that. If you do that, every 2 years, the amount you're putting in is double. So you've gone from £100, 2 years later, you're now putting away £200. But the compound effect of that is huge. Doing that as a process is called fast saving, forced accelerated savings technique. And then the book that I was going to suggest is a friend of mine, it's just came out. Jason Greystone has wrote a book called Always Free, How to Live a Financially Inspired Life, I think it's called. It's a great book that tells people all of the stuff that all of us wish us knew sooner, that didn't know about money mindset, and but some really practical things to do as well.
That's really useful, thank you. And we can leave the link in the description.
I guess what we would love to know is if there was one thing that you could take out of this book that you wanted everyone to know, what would it be?
One key takeaway for me is that you can avoid a life of frustration and unhappiness by creating and living your North Star.
If there was one belief or mindset shift from the book, it might just be what you've said, that you wish you had known in your own 20s, what would that be?
It's not one, but it's a combination that all mean the same thing, which is that life happens for you, not to you. Everything is on the way, not in the way. And what else would I say? Yeah, there's a couple that are beneficial beliefs, I think, for people to be able to have.
But do you have any follow-up books coming?
Yeah, so the original plan was to then go on and write North Star Business, North Star Health, North Star Relationships, North Star Mindset. What I've decided to do for reasons that I believe will have a bigger impact is, whilst the concept will still be around that, creating a business that's congruent with your North Star, creating health by living congruently to your North Star, is I'll give them slightly different titles. I haven't finalised the titles yet, but there's going to be a range of other books coming through.
Exciting.
Could you tell us a bit about your podcast?
Absolutely. So the podcast is called North Star Conversations, where I have conversations with people who are living their North Star and the trials and tribulations, how they created it, what they've been able to achieve as a result of living it, and to share some what I believe to be eye-opening insights, but some really practical things that people can listen to it for 40 minutes, an hour, and then go away and implement something that is just one of many actions that will be a catalyst in their life.
Amazing. And what kind of guests are you interviewing?
So it's a range of guests. I've had world-leading experts in the field of personal development, from people like Mo Gawdat, Daniel Priestley. You're a bit of a fan. You love Daniel.
You're a bit of a fan. She said to me that apparently I mention him in every single episode.
There isn't an episode where she hasn't mentioned Daniel.
I love him because he's so knowledgeable, and I got to photograph his event. So
you've met him?
I've met him, and we're hoping to get him on the podcast as well. just because he's so inspirational to me and he's really helped me on my entrepreneurial journey. But that's so cool that you've interviewed him.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that. So yeah, Marissa Peer, Stephen Kotler, it's just lots of different things I have a real interest in. And yeah, it's been a great journey. I've been able to build relationships with people that I would have never originally thought that I'd be able to build relationships with as a result of the podcast and sharing that.
When did you
knowledge.
start your podcast?
So I had a podcast previously, which I think I started in about 2018. And then this podcast started in, I think, February 2020.
Nice. So you started your podcast like pre-COVID, which is great because I know that like loads of people started during COVID. So it's really nice it was something that you did originally. Yeah.
It's nice as well because what you said about meeting all these people, like we always say, starting a podcast really extends your own network. It's a great networking opportunity, and we've met people that have given us so much like helpful advice.
Yeah. We're always talking about how amazing it is when you do surround yourself with like-minded people because it just pushes you so much further.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think has made the podcast so successful?
I think what I attempt to do is have a genuine curiosity in the topic that I have as my guest. So I do quite a bit of research, and I've got, again, hats off to you ladies. I was super impressed with the brief you sent out beforehand, the questions. It showed that you'd obviously done some due diligence. So many people that I've been a guest on their show, I've turned up and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, so remind me, what's your name again? Like what is it we're talking about? And it's thinking, oh wow, okay, that's really interesting, because they're just churning these things out for the sake of churning them out, rather than thinking, I want to create a great episode. And I think that a lot can be said for that. I think I attempt to ask questions that my listener really wants to know, because that's really what it's about, is the listener. It's not about the host and the guest, it's really about the listener. How can I make my audience want to tune into the next episode? And I believe it's because I'm providing them with some knowledge or some wisdom or some practical actions they can go and implement because of the questions that I've decided to ask, which I think is important.
Sounds like those podcasts that you were on, maybe the hosts have lost sight of their North Star.
Yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. I mean, it is the minority, you know, it is the minority, but yeah, it has happened.
So we're going to move on to a new section now. We're going to give you some quick fire hot takes. So the first one is, you can't have it all.
You can, not all at once.
Oh, I like that. It's so true. You can, if you want to, just not all at the same time. A clear plan beats raw ambition.
Effective. So what I think by that is that you can have raw ambition and just be a busy fool because you've got such raw ambition. And I'm a big believer that every strength is a weakness and every weakness is a strength. So having raw ambition is like, the naivety is almost in itself a strength. And there's a friend of mine, he's got a quote, it's something, and I'm paraphrasing it slightly, but he says something along the lines, if I realised business was going to be this hard, I would have stayed being a loser, you know, because that for him was just like, oh no, if I knew it was going to be this difficult, I wouldn't have tried. So yeah, I think having a clear plan can enable you to be more effective and channel that energy in a better way.
Morning routines are overrated.
Disagree. That would be my answer. Is that, yeah, I'm a big believer in, it doesn't matter what time you wake up in the morning, but what does matter is how you start your day. If you win your morning, you win your day.
Yeah, the intentions that you set out for the day.
Intentions and actions that will energize you. And sometimes it's a case of doing things. So for me, I'll do daily affirmations. I'll meditate in the morning. I will do some form of exercise. I'll do some form of learning. I'll set the tasks I want to do that day, what I call today's top priorities. Those things help me win the day. And if I win the day consistently, not every day, but more consistently than not, I'll win the week. If I win the week more consistently than not, I'll win the month, and so on and so forth, right? I'm also, whilst I do get up early, I'm not one of these people who's like, you've got to wake up at 3 a.m. and spend 4 hours doing a morning routine.
So many people out there like, oh, I'm so productive because I woke up at this time. And it's just...
you hit the nail on the head. It's about creating a routine that works for you, isn't it?
You can turn any failure into a win.
Yeah. Perspective. One of the sort of presuppositions in NLP is that there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So what's the feedback that we're getting that we can then choose to tweak and change? And being open to what that feedback is and being curious as to what that feedback is key.
Not everyone should be an entrepreneur.
I think everybody has the ability to, if they want to, and if they tap into something that is meaningful enough for them and their natural strengths. For some people, it suits them to be it. And there's some people that will spend 30 years of their life thinking, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then, bam, something unlocks in them because they really deeply care about it. You mentioned the word passionate earlier. So I'm a bit of a sucker for learning the root origin of words. And the root origin of the words passionate means to suffer. So that's why I don't use the word passionate. Yeah, because people say, I'm so passionate about it. Well, it means is you're suffering, actually, is the root. If you Google it, etymology, passion, and it will come up to suffer. So for people, the reason why they can be so inspired by something, I would use the term inspired, but they would be deemed to be so passionate about something because at some level they're suffering because of the way they think about it or something that happened to them to drive them to want to do that thing.
And because they want it so badly. Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
I'm going to try and not use that word as much.
Yeah, same. I think, let's shift it to inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is definitely part of my
Love that.
everyday vocabulary.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so passionate about this. Cool. So now we have a listener dilemma. This person has said, I feel like I have loads of ideas for my life and business, but I get paralyzed by overthinking and end up doing nothing. How do I break the cycle and just start?
So there's a couple of ways of doing it. And one of the ways of doing it is breaking it down, literally reverse engineering, starting with the tiniest step. My equivalent of what for me was posting the quote on social media. What's the equivalent of that if you worked it all the way back? No matter how micro that action is, it's a step in the right direction. So it could be designing the logo for something. It could be ordering the microphone. If you were starting a podcast, it's what's the micro action that you're willing to commit to do. That in itself can help people get out of their own way. Having some accountability, so telling someone else that you're going to do something, particularly someone you respect, because there's something called Parkinson's law, and Parkinson's law states that work will expand until the time at which you give it. So if we give something a deadline and we put the deadline in, it's more likely to happen. One of my top tips that I give to people if they want to start their own business, more specifically, they want to leave a job, is to write their notice. So if they say, right, well, I really want to leave my job in 6 months' time, I'll go, great, we're going to write your notice today for the date 5 months from, let's say they've got a 1 month notice. We're going to write the notice to your boss today with the date in 5 months' time, so that then you're giving your month's notice and then you've left in 6 months. You're going to write the notice, you're going to print it, you're going to sign it, you're going to put an envelope with your boss's name, and you're going to put it somewhere you'll see it every day. So like on your dressing table or put it on your fridge or whatever. So it's already done. You haven't given it to them, but it's done. That can be a micro action that can get people in that process of knowing that it's already happened. So what did we say? We said applying Parkinson's law, which is deadlines, creating some accountability, similar sort of thing. And then the other thing that can stop people from taking action is fear. So how do we remove the fear? Well, a lot of people think that entrepreneurs specifically, this isn't just applicable to entrepreneurs, this can be applicable to anything, are people these massive risk takers. Well, actually, more often than not, they're not massive risk takers. It's the opposite of that. They're calculated risk takers, and they've stacked the odds in their favor. So what can you do to reduce as many of the risks as possible for you to be able to take the action that you want to take? There's a few different ways.
I love that. I love the Parkinson's law.
Yeah.
There's so many people that I know would really benefit from that, that end up feeling stuck in their jobs, for example, and say that they're going to leave eventually, but then they never get around to it. Yeah, I think that's so helpful.
Yeah. the whole resignation letter thing's such a good idea, because in the back of your head as well, you're like, oh, it's coming up, like working towards.
Well, I'll expand on that, because obviously I'm mindful that a lot of your audience are people that maybe do want to potentially leave a job and go and start something for themselves. And what I've found is that in that instance, for a lot of people, one of the reasons why they don't do it is because they've got accustomed to a certain lifestyle. So if they're great at what they do, if they're in their, at any age really, but let's just say, I know a lot of your audience from their 20s and 30s. So let's say they're in their, I don't know, early 30s. Typically, they've got to that point where they're now earning the most money they've ever earned. They're enjoying a lifestyle probably better than what they've had for some time. They've got some form of liabilities, whether it's cars, mortgages, houses, whatever. So the idea of then having to make that jump from going from whatever the amount is from zero is a big jump. So we break it down. So what I get people to do is go, right, what is your survival budget? So this is no holidays, no new clothes, like not fancy meals, you know, we're talking survival. If you needed to survive, what's the amount of money you would need to earn? And it is almost never the amount they're actually earning, right? It's a big chunk less than that. So once we know what that is, we're going to go, great. Well, what we're going to do is one or two things. We're either going to save up to that amount of money so that you've got 3 months worth of savings just to keep you going for 3 months. That's an option, or 6 months or 12 months, depends on people's preferences. And or on your part-time business. So I always use the term part-time business, not side hustle. Just for me, it's a mindset thing, is that having your part-time business earning an amount of money that is as close to your survival budget as possible before you jump ship. Then that way, you know, well, if I've been able to get to earning my survival budget whilst still working full time, imagine how quickly I'm going to go from my survival budget to my desired budget. Now I can spend all of my time on the business. And then what happens, the compound curve kicks in, and that happens much quicker. And then that's one of the ways that gets people out of their own way when money's involved and they're wanting to start something for themselves.
Wow.
That is an amazing
Oh my God, I
tip.
love that.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. I'm going to start looking at my survival budget.
Yeah, I might work that out.
Yeah.
Great. Well, before we wrap up, we like to ask everyone one question. What do you wish you knew sooner?
What I wish I knew sooner was that pursuing material things and money for the sake of money will not bring you joy and fulfillment. Knowing your values, living your North Star, whilst can still have substantial challenges, will bring the fulfillment. And ultimately, with the right actions, accountability, and goals set, then you can achieve everything that you do actually want and more. So you get the best of both worlds.
That's great.
Love that. Do you have anything exciting coming up that people should watch out for in the future?
We are putting a lot of time, energy and effort into the podcast right now. So North Star Conversations, and also the YouTube channel. We're really about to immerse us. I remember recording YouTube videos in my back bedroom in my old house in 2015 that I actually deleted off the channel, that I kind of wish I never deleted off, and I've just kind of really neglected YouTube for so many years. So we're really going to put a lot of effort into YouTube. In fact, I'm filming next week now. We want to put a lot of effort there. So if people want to come and follow the channel and see some additional content there, then they're welcome to.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a really insightful conversation. I've definitely learned a lot. And you've made us rethink what's driving our own ambitions in life. So
Yeah, and it's really nice. Like, you've been so kind about what I wish I knew, and it's really nice just to have you here and get to know you more as well.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.